Hi everyone, welcome back. Welcome to YouTubers. Guys, today we are going to discuss a new topic in microservices. One of the important topic that is Feign Client communication here. Okay, when we have a real-time examples, what is the best example for communication between the microservices, right? That today I'm going to discuss for you all guys. Okay, now to start with this Feign client communication, okay, let me draw some diagram to you so that it will be easy for you. Assume that whenever you are making a transaction, suppose you are paying through credit card or debit card, okay, there is a chance of fraud transactions, right? Now we are taking one best a real time example. Okay, now what I'm doing, let me take a microservice. Assume that this is a microservice one. Okay, maybe this microservice one you can make it as a fraud transaction microservice. Okay, you have a another microservice. Okay, that is about let me pull another microservice. This is a microservice 2. Okay, basically this microservice, let me make it as a fraud notification service. Fraud notification service, basically to demonstrate you communication between the services. I chosen this example so that you can easily relate to this concept and as well as a real-time use case as well, right? So suppose this a fraud transaction microservices, assume that it will store complete, maybe we can use as a stack like a spring boot and spring data jpa. Okay, and we can use as a spring web dependency, we will use as a lombok dependency. These four dependencies are sufficient. Basically it will hold all your, we can create a fraud transaction. Okay, and we can fetch all transactions. Basically you can perform lot of operations here. So what I'm doing is, so this microservice responsibility is to perform these two operations here. Okay, maybe this application is running on a port number 8080 port number. Basically this microservice is running on 8080. Now you have another microservice fraud transaction microservice. This microservice is running on a different port number, suppose 9090 port number. You can use any port number, doesn't matter. So when you are running your microservice on here, I want to make an API call. To make this API call using, okay, we can do communication. Basically communication we can do by using a REST template and by using the Feign client communication. Feign client communication here. Okay, Feign client basically declarative approach. Declarative approach. Just we need to create a interface and we need to annotate it here to use this one. REST template everyone knows to communicate between two services. So right now I am demonstrating to the Feign client communication in terms of microservices here. If you know one microservice communication M1 to M2 or M2 M3, then easily you can implement this Feign client in all the services here. I am demonstrating without Eureka how you can make communicate between another microservice here. Okay, let me start our development phase. So we are as I told, these are the tech stack what I am using here. Okay, so what I'm doing, let me go to our application already to save the time. To demonstrate you the concept to you, already we created these microservices, one for the fraud transaction microservice, another for the fraud notification microservice here. In coming to the fraud transaction microservice, what are the dependencies we used here? I am using 3.2.1 spring boot version here. As we told, jdk 17 data jpa web dependency, one of the library I am using, sorry, this is a open field. Basically this is a first microservice. So anyway, I don't want this microservice here. only I need in the notification. H2 database, Lombok plugin. Yes, these are the dependencies we are adding in the fraud transaction microservice here. Okay, now here if you go to the service layer, this is the database communication. It will be happen. It will save the fraud transaction, and you can fetch the all fraud transactions. Basically, this microservice is running on a specific port number. We are communicating to H2 database, and it is running on 8080. Okay, now these are the basically fraud transaction microservice, producer microservice. Basically, if you want to track this microservice by using this 8080, I can record all the transactions here. Okay, first let me quickly whether I'm able to run this service or not, just quickly demonstrate you here. Once it is running by using the postman, let me create a fraud transaction, a dummy transactions we can create. Maybe you can choose 1 2 3 4 5 6. Just I'm creating a transaction ID. You can provide any account number. Okay, the amount, maybe let me make it as 1000 as a fraud transaction. Status is suspicious here. Okay, now let me create it here. Now let me send. Yes, a fraud transaction is created. Now let me do few more transactions as well. 654321. Maybe a different account number. Let me choose it here. Maybe a 10,000 transaction. Let me make it. Yes, see, two fraud transactions are created. If you use, I want to fetch these fraud transactions. What are the transactions are available? One, two. Yeah, two fraud transactions I have. This is a fraud microservice. Now our requirement is you need to basically make an API call. Basically, if you observe in this diagram, so M2 is our microservice, right? So in this M2 microservice, you need to make a external API call. How you can make? Using a Feign client. What are the steps you need to follow to make this communication? Now, if you click on the notification service, here even if you click on pom.xml file, now here what I am using, Spring Boot version is same. Here the one of the starter you should add in this microservice called open fiend dependency, we need to add into our pom.xml file, right? This is about into fraud notification service. I need to add open fiend. Once you added, to activate this fraud transactions, okay, we need to enable one annotation, enable Feign clients. This is the mandatory annotation you should enable on top of your Spring Boot main entry point here. Enable Feign clients. Now we created basically one a package about a client. See, there is a one package I created, fraud transaction client. Here you should provide one of the annotation at the rate Feign client annotation. Here any name you can provide and URL where is your application is running. My application is running on 8080 API slash fraud transactions. This is the URL here. Now, and which method you want to invoke? If you go to the controller layer, fraud controller layer, if now you have a URL, now you need to make a get mapping and post mapping. For post mapping, you have a request body and you need to pass the object. Now the same thing here, just you need to define the method signature. See here, this method signature, what it will do? Basically, it will pull it will pull complete fraud transactions to you, this API, and this API is responsible. If you basically, if you pass an ID, you can get the ID. But right now we implemented this fraud transaction. You can try for, this is the assignment, you can try to fetch a single transaction. Now I want to demonstrate you this one. This is about a Feign client communication here. Now where is the service layer? Now if you go to the service layer, once you make at the rate auto word about your client, and here you can able to fetch transaction. See, get all fraud transactions and fraud transaction by id here. Now now let me run this application. Now easily you can able to see it here. Now let me run this application. Now, guys, even we are going to start a live microservices project on 30th August. If anyone want to interested to enroll, just this is the Zoom link and password, or you can ping to this admin number 780100790. Just you can drop a message. People will help you to register for demo sessions. 5 days demo sessions we have, so you can attend. If you are interested, you can join for the live batch as well. Okay, this is about our new course we are going. The prerequisite for this course, you should have an idea on the spring boot, then you are eligible to attend this course. Okay. Yeah, now your application is running on with port number 8081 port number. Yes, your microservice is up and running. Now, if you go in the Postman, now what I can do, now this is a another microservice where it is running on 8081, and this is my API URL, API slash notification fraud transactions. Click on send option. Now what will happen? Now see, you can able to see now we are making API call using Feign Client. Feign Client means communication between the microservices. We can use as a concept called Feign Client. Okay, without hard coding the URL, with Eureka also we can able to achieve. But to get a higher picture for you, how you can utilize these services here. So, who are all watching this, you can try to implement this API in fraud transaction microservice, and you try to make an API call. Basically you need to provide your ID, transaction ID. Based on transaction ID, you can fetch your here. If you click on the fraud transaction about the model class, see here, transaction id, account number, how much amount transaction happen at what timestamp, and string. Either you can change with your local date time, anything is fine. The main motive about the uh, just remember one point: to implement your Feign client, this annotation is mandatory, and one transaction client also you need to create it here. Okay, this is all about how you can make an API call between our microservices here. Okay, hope you like the session. If you are practiced, if you are able to achieve 100%, okay, it's good to see. If any questions, drop a message in the chat box. And this is our hope everyone knows this is our YouTube channel, right? We will be upload our sessions into our YouTube itself only. And guys, even we have a DevOps course. If you want to become hero to zero, sorry, zero to hero course, DevOps course. If you want to become, lot of modules we introduced here, around 32 hours plus. Still we are planning to add few more modules, completely hero, zero to hero course. Basically all the DevOps tools we are integrating to here. Just you can check it out. A link will given in the description box as well, guys. Okay, so that's all today's session, and thank you guys.